Spencer Cornelia, the YouTuber known for calling out fake gurus and financial scammers, just sat down for a wide-ranging conversation on Ryan Pineda's podcast, Wealthy Way. And buried in that episode are a couple of details fans are going to want to know about. Quick reminder of who Spencer is, in case you're not familiar. He's built his entire channel around investigating scams, fake wealth coaches, and shady business schemes in the influencer and finance space. He doesn't sell courses himself, which has actually helped his credibility. He's just out here calling people out. That approach has earned him a loyal following, but it's also gotten him into real legal trouble over the years, including a defamation lawsuit from a self-proclaimed wealth coach that Spencer ultimately won. Now, on this recent episode with Ryan Pineda, most of the conversation was the usual: court cases and financial scandals in the influencer world. Let's actually break those down, because there's real substance here. First up was Tai Lopez. Yes, the here in my garage guy with the Lamborghini. Lopez is currently facing a real SEC lawsuit, accused alongside his business partner Alex Mayer of running a $112 million Ponzi scheme through their company, Retail E-commerce Ventures. The pitch to investors was that they'd buy up struggling retail brands, Radio Shack, Pier 1, Models Sporting Goods, and turn them into profitable e-commerce businesses, promising returns of at least 25%. The SEC alleges the underlying businesses were actually unprofitable, and that investor money was used to pay off earlier investors, which is the textbook definition of a Ponzi scheme. Spencer and Ryan spent real time on this, going through the mismanagement claims, fiduciary duty questions, and what they described as misleading claims about how investors would eventually get their money back out. They also got into Brandon Turner, the former face of Bigger Pockets, and losses tied to his real estate investment fund, Open Door Capital. That fund has drawn plenty of criticism from investors online over its performance, though it's worth noting that criticism hasn't necessarily translated into confirmed fraud findings. A lot of the online chatter around it is investors venting about underperformance rather than a proven legal case. And then there's Spencer's own legal history, which came up as well. And there's actually more than one case here. First is his multi-year defamation lawsuit from self-proclaimed wealth coach Derek Moneyberg. Spencer's talked openly elsewhere about the toll that case took. He said publicly he spent over $400,000 in legal costs fighting it. He ultimately won at the district court level, and an appellate court upheld that win at the end of last year. Given how much this fight cost him personally, it makes sense he'd bring it up when the conversation turned to how lawsuits get used as a strategy to silence critics in this space. But that's not the only lawsuit Spencer's been named in. There's a separate case out of Tarrant County, Texas, where a company called Legacy Medical Consultants sued Spencer directly, along with an associate named Brian Lando, and a few of Spencer's own business entities. That case traces back to a YouTube investigation Spencer published into Legacy, a wound care manufacturer. His video alleged the company was charging physicians artificially inflated prices for a product called the Zenith amniotic membrane, in some cases over $30,000 for a single item, and then offering rebates of up to 45% back to those same providers. The concern raised was that this setup could expose physicians to Medicare fraud liability, since providers are supposed to report the actual net price after rebates, not the inflated sticker price. Legacy Medical pushed back hard publicly, calling Spencer's video misinformation and insisting their rebate programs are standard industry practice that don't involve any illegal kickbacks. So between those two cases, Spencer's had real, sustained legal exposure directly tied to his investigative work, which is honestly probably part of why moving toward an actual law degree doesn't seem like such a random pivot for him. But then the conversation shifts. According to the episode's own chapter breakdown, there's a segment titled Career Shift to Law and YouTube Balance. That's a pretty big signal. It suggests Spencer is talking seriously about moving towards studying or practicing law, and how he'd balance that with continuing to run his channel. If you think about it, it actually makes sense given what he already does. He spent years around lawsuits, depositions, and legal disputes because of his content. So pivoting toward an actual legal career isn't as random as it might sound at first. And right after that, the chapters shift again into a segment called Dating Growth, Relationships, Faith, and Personal Renewal. So it sounds like Spencer got personal.